Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling. Have you ever seen a silence so long that, when it finally breaks, the whole room holds its breath? Because that is exactly what happened this week, and the shockwave did not stop at the press room doors. It traveled straight through social media, across fandoms, and into the hearts of millions. Yulong's mother, a woman famous not for what she says, but for what she never says, stepped forward and spoke publicly for the first time about her daughter-in-law Mei Mei, and what she revealed left fans stunned, emotional, and in many cases, newly protective of a woman they thought they already understood. So what made this moment so powerful? And why are people calling it one of the most unexpectedly moving family statements in recent celebrity memory? Let's walk through it together. In an industry where every gesture is packaged and every sentence is weighed for impact, silence becomes a language of its own. Yulong's mother has spoken that language for years. Not the casual quiet of someone with nothing to say, but the deliberate hush of a woman protecting the last uncommercial corner of her son's life. She watched storms form around him, rumors, scandals, fan wars, without stepping into the wind. That unbroken restraint taught the public to read her absence as a boundary, a refusal to trade family for headlines. So when she finally walked into that modest press room, the shock did not come from spectacle. It came from contrast. The way a single candle feels brighter after a blackout, her presence carried weight before she even reached the podium. Reporters leaned in not because they expected entertainment, but because they sensed a turning point. This was a woman who had refused the game, and now she was choosing on her own terms to speak. Years of quiet press behind her words, making each syllable land like something earned, not performed. Her silence worked as a promise to the audience. What followed would not be polished for attention. It would be personal, maybe imperfect, but real. In that moment, people were not watching a celebrity's relative play a role. They were witnessing a mother step out from the shadows to protect what she loves, and to correct what she believes has been misunderstood. The long restraint turned her confession into an event, and her voice into something rare in show business. Proof that when someone who never seeks the spotlight finally speaks, the truth arrives louder than any rumor ever could. It reminded everyone that sometimes the powerful statements are born from patience, not publicity, and this was one. What she began to understand, slowly and almost against her own expectations, was that Maymay's strength did not live where people usually look for it. It wasn't in loud declarations, sharp comebacks, or a public performance of confidence. It was in the unglamorous hours, in the spaces where cameras never linger and applause never reaches. The young woman who once seemed to shrink into herself was, in fact, holding herself together with a kind of discipline that only grows in people who have been tested repeatedly and still choose gentleness. Yulong's mother watched Maymay endure the pressure that comes with loving a star. The endless guessing by strangers, the envy dressed up as concern, the cruelty that hides behind trending hashtags. And she noticed something that changed everything for her. Maymay did not collapse under that weight, nor did she weaponize it. She carried it quietly, not because she was weak, but because she refused to let bitterness define her. She would cry in private, then rise in the morning and face the world with steadiness, as if dignity were a daily decision she made for herself and for the people she loved. In that endurance, the mother saw a courage far rarer than the bravado most people applaud. Maymay's resilience was relational. She protected Yulong's peace without demanding credit for it, and she protected her own heart without turning it into a spectacle. She did not fight every battle out loud. She survived them inwardly, and that survival became its own kind of quiet victory. The mother's realization was not a sudden epiphany, but a series of small recognitions stitched together over time. Each time Maymay stayed kind when she had every reason not to be. Each time she chose loyalty over pride. Each time she held the household steady while the outside world shook, the picture grew clearer. The fragility the mother thought she saw was never the whole story. Beneath it was a woman who had learned to be strong without hardening, and to love without losing herself. That was the hidden strength she did not see at first, and once she saw it, she could never unsee it. There are moments in family life that do not arrive with grand speeches or dramatic confrontations, but with a small, almost accidental discovery that quietly rearranges the heart. For Yulong's mother, that moment came when she learned she and Maymay share the same birthday. On paper, it is a simple coincidence, the sort of detail most people might smile at and move on from. Yet in the emotional climate of that press room, it carried the weight of something far deeper. It was as if life had slipped a thread between two women who had been circling each other cautiously, unsure of where they stood. She described finding out by chance, and you can almost feel how unexpected tenderness entered the space. The mother had spent years reading Maymay through the lens of first impressions and protective fear. But the shared date felt like a mirror held up by fate itself, inviting her to see Maymay not as a guest in her son's life, but as someone whose path was meant to cross their families. In many cultures, especially across East Asia, such a coincidence does not register as random. It suggests alignment, a kind of symbolic kinship. The mother did not present it as superstition. She presented it as recognition. A quiet sign that softened her resistance and opened a door she hadn't realized she'd kept shut. What makes this detail so moving is that it humanizes the shift. Her acceptance of Maymay was not only built on observation of resilience and care, but also on an emotional spark she could not rationalize away. It reminded her of her own journey as a daughter-in-law once, of how frightening it can feel to step into a new family and hope to be received. The shared birthday became the shorthand for that empathy. It was the point where judgment gave way to belonging. In that single detail, the story turns from evaluation to love. It is not that a date changes character. It is that the discovery allowed the mother to surrender to what she was already beginning to feel. The coincidence became a bridge, and across that bridge she finally met Maymay as family. What moved Yulong's mother most was not a dramatic gesture that could be photographed and reposted, but the kind of love that survives precisely because it is ordinary. She spoke about Maymay in the language of small daily scenes, the quiet kitchen light after a long filming day, the way she notices exhaustion before anyone else does, the habit of placing dinner on the table even when the world outside is noisy and unkind. These are not moments that trend online, yet they are the moments that hold a life together. In them, the mother saw a devotion that does not demand witnesses. She described watching her son come home drained, his shoulders heavy with schedules, pressure, and the invisible weight of being watched by millions. And there was Maymay, never theatrical, never performative, simply present. She reminded him to rest without making him feel weak for needing it. She checked what he needed without turning care into control. She anticipated the practical things, food, warmth, quiet, so that he could breathe again. The tenderness was not loud, it was reliable. And reliability in the end is the true architecture of love. What Maymay offered was a kind of emotional shelter. She did not try to compete with the spotlight surrounding Yulong. Instead, she created a space where he could step out of it. She carried stress without passing it on, absorbed the sharp edges of the day so he would not have to. The mother noticed that this was not done out of obligation or for praise. It was done because Maymay understands love as a practice, not a performance. There is something deeply adult about this realization. Passion can be dazzling, but it flares and fades. Care is quieter, but it endures. By focusing on these ordinary acts, Yulong's mother was making a bigger point than any rumor ever could. That Maymay's love is not a story she tells. It is a life she quietly builds, one steady action at a time. What followed her tender memories was not hesitation, but a steadier, sharper kind of courage. Yulong's mother understood that in the modern entertainment world, rumors do not drift by accident. They are manufactured, repeated, and weaponized until they feel like truth. She had watched this happen for years from the sidelines, seeing strangers turn fragments into verdicts, seeing online voices describe a woman they had never met as if they had lived inside her heart. And in that press room, she chose not to soften her words for anyone's comfort. She spoke as a mother, yes, but also as a witness who had quietly collected the evidence of Maymay's character in real life. Her message cut through the usual fog of celebrity gossip because it was not abstract. She did not ask the public to be kinder in a generic way. She called out the exact cruelty, the whispers that Maymay was weak, the insinuations that she was calculating, the gossip that tried to frame her love as performance. She said plainly that those narratives were wrong. Not misunderstandings, not different perspectives, but wrong. And she explained why. Because the people spreading them had never seen the Maymay she had seen. They had not stood near her in chaos, watched her stay upright under pressure, or noticed the way she carried her burdens without turning them into theater. There was something almost protective and maternal in the force of it, like a door being shut against a storm. It was a refusal to let public noise rewrite private truth. She was not merely defending her daughter-in-law, she was reclaiming her. In doing so, she reminded everyone that gossip is easy precisely because it is distant, while understanding requires closeness, patience, and humility. Her words asked the audience to reconsider the power they hand to rumor, and to remember that behind every headline there is a human being whose life is being described without consent. The directness of her statement did not inflame drama, it restored dignity. It was the rare moment when family truth stood up, looked the rumor machine in the eye, and said, "Enough."